centralized and blockchain based. One of the lotteries will be Francesco. What's the website where they can find the
Bitcoin Milano/lottery.
So bitcoinmilano.it/lottery. You will pay. Then we will extract a block ID. And we will compare the block ID with the transaction IDs, and the transaction that will be closer, we will the fourth closer transaction, we will assign these prizes. First, a Ledger hardware wallet. I know Ledger is not so great, but no, the best hardware wallet in the world, provided by the Rock Trading. The most ancient and reliable exchange, actually the Rock Trading exchange started before Bitcoin to be a Bitcoin exchange, so very, very ancient. Also we will provide you a Bitcoin Milano mug, and of course that's already have it, but a Blockchain Lab mug.
And the cap.
And since we are very generous, there will be also a Bitcoin Milano cap. So this will be the transaction-based, website-based.
T-shirt.
We also have another survival T-shirt of Scaling Bitcoin Milan. That's a relic. That's something that you will sell for 0.0000001 Bitcoin in the future, which is a lot of money in the future. So this will be the centralized trust-based lottery. There will be also another one, also probably dishonest. If you use Bitcoin to pay for your beverage here, you will make a transaction. One of these transactions will be selected, and the transaction will be charged back. Of course, not automatically, but manually charged back, right? Okay. So the transaction, the second lottery is provided by Bitcoin, which is the startup that provided the payment processor for displays, Copernico Cafe. And so now I finally pass the word to Ryan Shea. Okay.
So I have two microphones because we're also live streaming this right now. Does this work? No? What?
Why not?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Is this working?
No?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah.
It works.
Hello? Hello?
Try to use the louder voice.
Alright, I'm just going to talk and you guys will hear me. Alright? Okay, so thank you guys for coming, and here is the basic outline of the agenda, okay? So first, I'm going to give a quick intro to Blockstack for those of you who don't know what it is. If you do know what Blockstack is, that's okay, we're going to go through it quickly, so don't worry. And then the next thing is we're going to go through some new releases in Blockstack. That includes the Blockstack browser, Blockstack Core, the release 0.14, as well as the Blockstack Name Explorer and the iOS client. So we're going to go through that. After that, we're going to have an open discussion, okay, on decentralized applications. We're going to go through, talk about Open Bazaar, whatever you guys want to talk about, up to you, okay? And then at the end, great, let's try it again. Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at the end, we'll have some lightning talks. If anyone wants to talk about either their favorite decentralized application, something you're working on that's related. Okay? Who wants to do one? Is anyone interested? Yeah? Ricardo? Okay, Ricardo's going to do one. Okay, who else? Who else wants to do one? Anyone? Come on. Who wants to do a light 1 minute talk at the end to talk about anything?
Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah? Okay. You got one? Okay, cool. All right, sweet. So at the end, well, you guys can just come up and volunteer. So first I'm going to talk about the Blockstack community, just to introduce this a little bit, so you guys can get a sense. So we have a Slack group. We have over 1,700 members in our Slack group. I highly recommend you join. It's a really good community. You check it out. We also have Meetup groups. You can check them out at meetup.com. And they're in cities all around the world, including here. And our Meetup groups have been growing extremely fast. So thank you guys for, this is now over 1,700, so 1,800, sorry. So thank you guys for being a part of this, this group. Blockstack community members, so there's a bunch of them here. We've got Jude, Larry, let's see, Elizabeth is here. Who else? And a few others, okay? But there's so many more, and Ricardo's another one. So thank you guys for being part of the group. So, okay, so what is Blockstack? So Blockstack makes building decentralized apps easy, okay? So instead of having servers to deploy and maintain, you can actually just publish your code and you can have a serverless application, right? So it's just like a single page web application, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, right? Instead of databases to set up and maintain, you can just have users bring their own cloud storage. So you can imagine, get data from user, put data with user, and whatever data storage that user decides to have set up, it'll get synced to that user's storage containers, right? So like, you know, Amazon S3, Dropbox, Google Drive, they can have multiple storage containers, and also the information is encrypted and replicated across multiple locations, so that it doesn't put the cloud hosting providers in control, okay? So the third thing is, instead of actually having to build out identity management systems with usernames and passwords, password resets, and profile, filling out profiles and all that stuff, identity's built in. So there's APIs for that. It's very, very simple. And then the last thing is it just uses Bitcoin payments. So when you're building an application on this, you can just use this set of APIs, and all of these functions that you normally have to build out, you don't actually have to worry about that. So there's a stack of software that's called Blockstack Core, okay? And Blockstack Core, it works on top of any blockchain, but specifically the large Blockstack network in operation works on top of the Bitcoin blockchain. And it provides naming, identity, authentication, and storage, and then the applications actually use those services. Right? There are several Blockstack clients. OneName.com was actually the first Blockstack client. You guys may be familiar. Who here has a OneName.com account? Yeah? Okay, sweet, nice. So what you might remember, OneName.com was actually probably the first real blockchain-based application that's non-financial. It was back in early 2014, just like before people were like, oh, building on the blockchain was a thing, right? There's also the Blockstack command line interface. So same thing. It's another client. You can register personas, names to public keys, and then associate DNS resolution instructions with each name, right? And you can update a profile for each of those names and personas. And then the last thing is Blockstack Core. It comes with its own HTTP RESTful API that you can call, right? We also have, there's been a few Blockstack publications. So there's actually very few publications that have been published in top academic conferences, and we're proud to have one of them. Actually, Usenix ATC was actually the first paper that we put out, and then we have two others: the Usenix login paper, and then the DCCL paper that was authored by Jude and a few others of us. So the last thing I'm going to show you with the overview of Blockstack is the Blockstack architecture. So this is how Blockstack works, okay? So you have the blockchain at the bottom, right? And this can be any blockchain. It can be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Zcash, right? There's just drivers that are written to plug into those blockchains. And as I said, there's one large Blockstack network in operation right now, and that's on top of Bitcoin, right? Each Blockstack node scans through the operations, right? And then it derives state, builds a database from those operations, similar to Counterparty, or are you guys familiar? Who's familiar with Counterparty? Anyone? So it works in the same way, in that it scans through a sequence of transactions and then builds state, a database of names and public keys and hashes of files. And that, specifically in the system, the hash of the file is a file called a zone file, which is the file that you use when you're associating DNS resolution instructions with a domain name. That's the name of the zone file. And that includes URIs which then point to locations where data is stored elsewhere, which can be on, as we talked about before, Amazon S3, Dropbox, Microsoft Azure, your personal drive, BitTorrent, IPFS, wherever you want to put it, right? So the key thing is it uses DNS to indicate where your data is stored, okay? And also, and a very key thing is that each name is associated with both a public key and a zone file, right? So, cool. Does anyone have questions? Is that straightforward? Yeah? Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm going to take you through some of the new releases in Blockstack, right? So, the first, we actually just recently came out with a Blockstack iOS client, and Jorge Tapia is the one who worked on this, a dedicated member of the Blockstack community. And the Blockstack iOS client has all the Blockstack API operations, and you can use it for mobile applications. And the next thing is Blockstack Core 0.14.0, and I'm going to give this to Jude real quick so he can tell you a little bit about it.
Hi everyone. Is on?
Better.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hey, cool. So we're pleased to announce the release of version 0.14 of Blockstack Core. It'll be due out in a few weeks. It's got several very important new features. It's our biggest release probably ever by lines of code. Probably the biggest two features are significant improvements in performance. We have a 20x RAM reduction. We've migrated fully over towards using a native SQLite database instead of our own custom, rather hacky JSON format file. But this is great because now you can issue queries against the information that the Blockstack node gathers from the blockchain that we might not have thought of. So it's extra extensible in that manner. It also gives us a 6x network performance increase. It maybe takes on the order of a day or so for a Blockstack node to boot up by scanning the blockchain, finding all of the blockchain return operations, and translating that into a database. That's been significantly improved in this release. From a user standpoint, we've also added multi-sig support by default. So when you register names, instead of being registered to pay a public key hash scripts, they're registered to pay to script hash scripts, which default to 2 of 3. Which require 2 or 3 multi-sig scripts. The other big thing we like to announce for Blockstack Core is we've merged our resolver into the Blockstack Core system. So it comes with a conventional HTTP interface and also with built-in documentation, so it's easy to get started, easy to start hacking on it, writing clients for it in your favorite language. We've additionally rolled out, and this is my favorite feature because I'm a distributed systems researcher. My favorite feature, we've implemented a new type of storage layer for the routing information. See, in the past, in 13 and previous, the Blockstack nodes worked together to implement a DHT. And that was fine for a while. You map the hash of the DNS zone file Ryan mentioned to the zone file itself. But this is not going to work in the long run. And the reason is not because we're worried about the DHT being polluted. That's actually not a problem, because the blockchain holds all the hashes. So we just look at the blockchain and say, hey, is this data in the blockchain or not? And is it accepted earlier? If it is, great, accept it. If not, then we know you're a spammer. But the problem with DHTs is that they're vulnerable to routing attacks. So even if I have a whitelist of all the content, an attacker can still join the DHT and take control of the hash buckets in the DHT by inserting himself in particular places in the key space. That's problematic because an attacker could then censor individual keys or ranges of keys without actually interacting with the blockchain at all. And in doing so, they could censor and knock you offline and destroy your zone file data. So what we've done instead is we've started to treat the blockchain itself like a torrent file, like in BitTorrent. See, we're kind of in a special case here. The zone files themselves are small. They're on the order of 4 kilobytes each, and they grow at a fixed rate. They can't grow any faster than the Bitcoin blockchain. So the entire state required by all of this fits onto a disk pretty easily. It's only a few hundred megabytes. So we've opted instead to implement a BitTorrent-like protocol called the Atlas protocol, where each node strives to maintain 100% replica of all zone files, and they implement the conventional BitTorrent type algorithms and heuristics for fetching content. So fetch rarest zone file first, and then sample the network using Metropolis Hastings random walk with delayed acceptance graph sampling algorithm to build up a unbiased sample of the peer graph. And in doing so, make sure that the network is highly resilient against network level attacks. Whereas before, you could knock our system offline by taking over a login of the nodes. Now you have to take over on the order of all of them because you have to basically eclipse me fully. And more, we have to eclipse the blockchain as well because I'll detect censorship because I'll see zone file hashes and be unable to resolve it. So this is a huge improvement that we've worked on for this release, and we intend to support it well into the future. We're really excited about it. And so far in our initial test, it's performing quite well.
Awesome, thanks, great work, Jude. So yeah, as you can tell, it's a huge, huge release. A lot of stuff is packed into that, so thank you for the update. The next thing we can show is the Blockstack Name Explorer, and Larry is going to talk about that as well.
Hey everybody, so the Blockstack Name Explorer is a web-based application that lets you see how Blockstack name operations are included into the Bitcoin blockchain. And it lets you sort of, if you remember the previous image that Ryan showed you where you have the blockchain layer, the virtual chain layer, the routing layer, and the application layer, it lets you sort of explore each of those layers and see how operations are included into the Bitcoin blockchain, how the virtual chain is structured, and then which operations are made up of each name. So this page here that we're looking at on the screen is block 433,639. In this block we had a series of name registration operations here. So you can see this is the typical Bitcoin block. And these operations were registering names. And here we can see that we have somebody who's probably speculating on Blockstack names and has registered several names that are different names of cities. So Belgrade ID, Mumbai ID, Athens ID. Each of these names, these name methods, correspond to a Bitcoin transaction. And here you can see the Bitcoin address that owns the name, and on the far right you can see the amount of Bitcoin that was spent to record the operation in the Bitcoin blockchain. So this will hopefully be released for public consumption later this year. So check it out when it's ready.
Great, awesome. Okay, so to clarify, these are this is also the .id. It's the namespace for identities for people. So there's a namespace for identity for people. There's other namespaces. There's another namespace .app, which is for applications. There's another namespace, other namespaces that are coming out, .iot for IoT devices, registering IoT devices. And another namespace that's coming out called .git for registering software packages, right? So you can actually, in Blockstack, you can create your own namespace and set the parameters of that namespace, like the pricing scheme of the name. You can make the names get less expensive as the length of the name increases. You can set the name expiration period, right? And you can set all these parameters. So you can create your own namespace and do what you want with it. So it's actually really powerful. So the next thing that we're going to go through is the Blockstack browser. So we talked about DNS, talked about public key distribution, right? That's the core services that Blockstack Core provides. And what we're really trying to do here is build a new internet. So for the new internet, you need a new browser, okay? And on this new browser, you have identity built in, you have Bitcoin payments built in, and you can browse Blockstack applications that are completely client-side, don't use any servers, don't rely on any central parties. And so we're starting with the desktop, laptop version of the Blockstack browser, and then eventually we'll have a mobile version as well, right? So I can show you a demo of this. So here is, the browser, and actually on the left you can see, so it's like a normal browser, but on the left there are identities that are built in, right? And I can go and I can register additional identities, pick my username, and then when I register it, let's see, and then I just registered an identity, and now it's pending on the network. So now transactions have been sent to the Bitcoin blockchain, And once it gets accepted and processed by the Blockstack nodes, then that pending will go away, and then I'll have another identity, right? Another persona right here. This one I filled out my profile, and I can actually edit it and add social accounts and add additional photos. I can add PGP keys, a bunch of other information. And then I can also go and search for other people's profiles. Like for example, I'm going to search for Werner Vogels, right? And if you're familiar with onename.com, it has all this functionality built in. So I can go to Werner Vogels, and now I'm seeing the profile of the CTO of Amazon, right? And this is actually him. He signed up the other day. And one key thing here is this is more like a website. This is more like loading a page through a domain name, less like a profile on Twitter or Facebook. Because with a profile on Twitter or Facebook, you're connecting to Facebook and Twitter servers, right? Here there's no servers. All you're doing is loading a file from his private data container, right? His personal data container, and loading up that file and rendering it as a profile, okay? In his case, he chose to store his data on S3, Amazon S3, you know, no surprise, right? But, so what it's doing is actually the browser is pulling this directly from S3, inspecting it, verifying the signatures, and then loading it properly. And then he has these verifications over here, and you can see his Twitter and Facebook profiles and know that it's actually him, right? So, another thing to point out. So, you can also, just like you can send bitcoins between addresses, you can also send domain names between addresses, right? So this is similar if you have familiarity with Namecoin, same thing, right? But it's using Bitcoin addresses. And in terms of where you store your data, right? By default, we'll store your data on S3 through our S3 bucket, but you can actually use your own S3 credentials and store it on your own S3 bucket. And then soon we're going to add login with Dropbox and login with Google Drive, so you can store them on Dropbox and Google Drive as well. So you're in control of your data storage, and you're in control of your identity, right? And then of course your payments as well, because you can make Bitcoin payments directly through the browser. The next thing that I can show you is a Hello World application. So I'm going to helloworld.app, right? And when I go to helloworld.app, it's going to load up this Hello World application. So this is a very, very simple app. All it does is it showcases Blockstack authentication, right? And what it's going to do is going to take the first persona that I have, right? And I'm going to be able to log in with it, and it'll show my identity information. Boom. So I just logged in, and now the application recognized me and pulled in my profile information, right? So you can log into apps. You can. What we're really trying to do here is have all these common core components, right? That you don't have to build out yourself, so that when you're building a decentralized application, so much of the work has been done for you, and you can focus on what makes your app special, right? There's no point in building out a username system, a profile system, a key signing system, Bitcoin payments, and all these other things, because all that is just common components that can be reused across applications. And then this browser is meant to be an environment to make it simple to actually build your applications and for people to view them. Cool. Does anyone have any questions? No?
No question?
None? Really?
I have a question.
1, 2.
Okay.
Some of the audience.
If you, the microphone.
All right. Here.
Do you plan to support also a system like OnCloud or different data sources, not centralized like Amazon?
Oh, sure, yeah. We actually have in the works an IPFS driver and a BitTorrent driver. So those are two examples of you can really store your data anywhere. We can also do a Shea driver. I don't know if the Shea folks are here. Yeah, why not?
We have a driver model. It's very simple. Our drivers are between 100 to 500 lines of Python. It's very simple to get started on writing drivers for our system.
Another question? Is everything open source and with kind of license?
Yes. And Blockstack core is GPL v3. Almost everything is MIT. So just Blockstack core is GPL v3. And okay, cool. So the next thing that we'll go into is decentralized applications.
Excuse me. I have a question about the license.
Sure.
If the core is GPL, everything must be GPL. How is it possible that the core is GPL and every device is MIT?
Because it connects over an RPC interface or HTTP interface, so it's completely separate from everything else. Okay, so any more questions? We can do one more before we continue. Yeah?
Bad question. Are you going
There's
to
no bad
use,
questions.
Oh. Are you going to use the data of your customer user or not?
So there's no data. So this is all open source, right? You can download it and run it yourself. There's no data that we're collecting. There's no servers that we have, right? The only thing that's in there right now is the API that you connect to, and that's it, right? So there's API calls. We have data that we're doing internally with that, but it has nothing to do with you, and there's no tracking of you.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's completely client side, and very yeah. Cool. All right, so decentralized applications. So I'm going to go through a few examples here. Who here knows about OpenBazaar? Yeah. Okay. Who uses OpenBazaar? Or who downloaded OpenBazaar?
Okay,
Download. Okay. All right. Cool. What would you like to see in OpenBazaar that would make you use it more often? I'm just curious.
Directory search.
Directory search?
Drugs.
I'll pretend I didn't hear that.
On your network.
On your network, okay. Directory search on your network. There's actually a couple search engines for OpenBazaar. It's pretty cool how there's a few search engines popping up around that. Who here knows Alexandria? No? So this is it's like a decentralized YouTube. What's so funny?
He's a friend of mine.
Oh, really? A friend of yours? Nice, okay. And then the third one is Twister. So this is like a decentralized Twitter. Okay? So I was thinking about decentralized applications, basically products that you can download, run today. They're actual apps. They have an interface. There's not a centralized service. And I was actually thinking that there's quite a few of them. Are there others that you guys can think of? Are there others that I'm missing? I'm sure there's more, but not that many come to mind. There's another one that I thought of, which is it's basically Spotify. Maybe one of you know what it is. I forgot the name of it. But it's basically Spotify. You can download it. It uses Bitcoin and BitTorrent for the files. Does anyone know what this is?
Like Popcorn Time?
It's like Popcorn Time,
But it would be content.
but it's Bitcoin payments, and it has an interface that's kind of like Spotify.
Streamium, no.
No, that's Streamium. Would Streamium be considered a decentralized application? No, right? Because it's hosted, right? So, okay, of those three, can anyone think of another one other than these three?
BitMessage.
BitMessage. Okay, that's number 4. What? It's not an application though. IPFS is a
Protocol.
it's a protocol. It's I mean something with a graphical user interface. Something, yeah, like not or you could say it's a developer tool. It's a protocol. It's a command line tool.
All right.
Let's say a graphical application. BitTorrent sync. Okay.
I think I renamed it.
Centralized.
Is it what?
It's just closed source. I think it's decentralized but closed source.
Centralized.
Okay.
Thing is open source, but
What's it called?
Think is sync thing. It's like a BitTorrent sync, but it's open source.
Okay, cool.
There is Last is Me on Ethereum blockchain.
All right.
Yeah.
A trustless lot. Last is Me.
Last is Me. It's a trustless lottery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Time-based
And you
lot.
can use it.
Well, I did.
You did use it. Okay.
I lost.
Because I think one thing that a lot of people are noticing is there's lots of application landing pages, but very few applications. And so this is one of the reasons why we're really trying to make building decentralized apps easy. There's a few really notable, awesome projects, but I'd like to see a lot more of them, and I hope you do too. One thing that we're working on, oh yeah?
Aren't you worried that something like the DAO happens if it's too easy to build this decentralized?
Wait, hold on, you say that one more time on that.
Aren't you afraid that something like the DAO happens if it's too easy to build a decentralized application?
Okay, so it depends. The type of applications that we just went through, there are certain type of apps. They are apps where you're dealing with data, right? It's the main fluid of the application is data. If the main fluid of the application is data, that's a great type of application to build on something like Blockstack, right? If you look at the DAO, the DAO, right, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, and you look at some other applications on Ethereum, most of them, the main fluid of the application is some type of currency or token, as opposed to data. And so in that case, I think that's a different type of app that's a little more dangerous in that, and now it depends what you want to build. You can be in the data-based apps camp, or you can pursue currency or token-based apps. In the case of currency or token-based apps, yes, you should be concerned. You should be tread very, very carefully. I mean, the same thing in database apps too, but I think the consequences are less. The worst thing that could happen is some kind of misuse of data. In the case of currency-based, which could be very bad. It depends on what the application is. If it's healthcare related, or if it's there's some very important secrets, then some bad things could happen. But what we're doing in these types of applications and the applications that we're enabling, there isn't really any currency creation or currency handling. So I would say the specific risks that apply to the DAO do not apply here. But yes, anytime you're dealing with something that's extremely valuable, the stakes are higher, you have to be much more careful. Yeah. And then, okay, cool. So I just wanted to take you through 3 more applications that, application concepts that we've been toying around with, and we would like to see people build, and we want to help you build it if you decide to build it on Blockstack, right? So you can take this, you can run with these ideas if you'd like. So the 3 apps that we've been focusing on for actually making tutorials and helping people kind of see how you can build on Blockstack is a publicly auditable voting application, and a crowdfunded investigative reporting app. Okay? So, secure software distribution. This is actually, it's a pretty big problem to actually distribute software and be certain that you're actually, that all of your users that you're distributing it to are actually getting the right software. And also, as a user, you want to be certain that you're getting the right software. So some people, what they'll do is they'll download a software package, they'll download the hash of the package and the signature, and they'll check the signature and the hash against the file itself. It's, use the PGP command line interface, do all this stuff. It's actually pretty tedious. Who does that? Does anyone here do that?
Every time?
What percentage of the time do you do it?
1%.
1%. Do you do it?
Maybe yeah.
Okay, what software packages do you use to do it for?
Bitcoin Core.
Bitcoin Core. Do you do it for anything else?
I mean, who else does it?
What?
For security mining software, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of other projects that provide the hash and the signature, but I think...
I was thinking of like deterministic builds. So.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's more advanced, but But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I just say, fuck it, I'm just going to download it, and I'm not actually going to check the sig and the hash. It's a tedious process, but the cool thing here that we can do is actually have an interface where you have the ability to download the package, and then you have signatures by the developers who are publishing the package. You can require, so we have, we have multi-sig in Bitcoin. You can have a similar setup here, where you require 2 out of 3 developers to sign off on a new release of the package, right? And if 2 of 3 don't sign off, then the publication won't go through. This is actually a better setup than a single package publication system, like on PyPy or whatever package manager you use, right? And then what you can actually do is actually audit the signature and check it for yourself to make sure that you got the right package. So this would be a really cool way to actually distribute software, right? The second one is publicly auditable voting. So imagine a vote, no one runs the vote, okay? And everyone submits their votes, and then the clients scan through and rebuild the and retally the results, okay? And then you can actually go through and scan through and audit the vote yourself, right? So this is a very simple version, a very simple design of a decentralized voting app or a publicly auditable voting app, in that it requires that all votes are public. If you want privacy, it gets way more complicated, but it can be done. But for an MVP, I think it's really cool to be able to do a publicly auditable voting app. It's actually pretty simple, and have everyone be able to independently audit the vote and make sure that the vote is correct, right? I think that's really cool. And so you can imagine this being used for some online communities, especially ones where they're okay with having a transparent voting process. And then the last one is a crowdfunded investigative reporting app. So this is like a cross between Medium and Patreon, right? Where you can have a publication, you can publish blog posts, you can do reporting, you host your own content, right? Because remember, everything's decentralized. So you're hosting your own content, and people can pay you in Bitcoin to support your work. And you can be a verified person. You can have Twitter, Facebook verification, all your social media profiles verified so that people know who you are. Or you can be completely anonymous. And you could do, for example, investigative reporting on a large corporation with very shady business practices. Maybe you want to report on something, but you don't want people coming after you, right? Or maybe you're in a country that's very hostile to journalists, right? And you want to do investigative reporting in that country, and you don't want to be arrested, right? So this is actually a way to provide a business model for investigative reporting that we find really important, right? You can say, I think that this should be reported on, this is very important to society, I will back this publication, right? That is really powerful, because especially in an age when investigative reporting is done, right? Cool, so I would love to hear what you guys think. What do you think of the last 3 apps? Hello? Yeah, what do you think of the last 3 apps?
It seems too good to be true.
It seems too good to be true, yeah? Okay. Any other thoughts? Any favorite app? Any commentary on how you would build it? What else you would like to see? Another decentralized app that we haven't thought of that everyone here should be considering? Who wants to build a decentralized app? Yeah? No? No one else? You guys want? 5, 6? You don't want? No one wants? You guys don't want to build decentralized apps? No? Fuck it? That sucks?
Want to use maybe?
Huh?
Want to use?
Want to use? Okay. Who wants to use decentralized applications? Yeah. Okay. Pretty much everyone. All right. That's cool. Who doesn't want to use decentralized applications? Who says they suck? No? Okay, nobody? Alright. Oh, one person, that's all. I think that was Taj. Was that Taj?
I'm just going to use Oracle, so...
Just use Oracles? Okay. Taj says only rely on
Oracle, like the
Oracle. Oh, just use Oracle.
Yeah, it's centralized.
Oh, okay. Alright.
Like Java, DB.
Alright. So, we're, centralized, decentralized Oracle. Okay, so we're basically at the end of my talk, and I want to thank you guys. If you have any other questions. Also, we're going to go right into lightning talks. So who wants to give a lightning talk? Who wants to give? Who said that? You do? Yeah, one. You want to give one? On Ledger? Awesome. All right, Ricardo's going first. No? Come on, talk about up return. Let's do it.
I never talk these days. I did 1 year only.
1 minute.
Something like that. But anyway, can I have
yeah, I'll pull it up.
use this time for asking you another question?
Oh, sure, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Are there,
More close to the microphone, please.
Are there some other third-party apps that are being developed on Blockstack infrastructure?
Sure, so OpenBazaar actually uses us for all, if you get a store name on OpenBazaar, that's a Blockstack name, right? And then there's a bunch of other applications. Yours Network is actually building on top of us. Democracy OS, they're going to be working on a decentralized voting application. So some other projects that you know of in the space are actually building on top of this. Also Media Chain, there's a few others. Awesome. All right, thank you. All right, you're next, right? Who is doing a lightning talk? Raise their hand right now.
Maybe Giacomo.
Giacomo?
Go!
Where is it?
Giacomo is there.
Okay, who wants to make an announcement? Does anyone want to make an announcement? About anything? What? Okay. You're coming up? You're next? Come. You're next. Yes.
Okay, I'm next.
Alright.
So, hi, I'm Nicolas from Ledger. So, well, thanks for everybody for hosting this event. I hope you enjoyed the wallet that we provided to the previous event. So, well, what can I say? So, we are a hardware wallet provider. We have been doing a new API recently with our new product, the Nano S, which allow you to create any kind of application. So, I think it would be a very good use case. For example, to build your next decentralized application and put the security in some things that can actually enforce some very strong constraints. And well, so have a look at our API and well, enjoy the evening.
Nice. So the next thing that I actually want to hear a lightning talk on is join market.
Yeah.
So can we do that?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. 1 minute.
Go.
Give us the 1 minute version of your talk.
So join market is a protocol that helps you get some unlinkability for your transactions, and you actually pay the other participants in the protocol, so there's incentivized liquidity. We're working on making it more difficult to compromise that unlinkability because it's not a perfect system. There are several different attacks that we're working on ameliorating right now, and it takes a lot more than 1 minute to explain.
I now understand how it works. Yeah?
Lawrence.
Come on. Another guy?
Yeah, Lawrence. You want to do it, Lawrence?
I'm one, Lawrence.
You can do it if you want.
Yeah, one Lawrence.
On, what do you want? Something Blockstream related? What can you talk about?
Maybe one. Oh.
Yeah?
Well, there was a talk about fungibility recently, right? Yes. We've been looking into things like join market and Tumbleweed, providing tools for people to improve their fungibility and privacy, or make some money through the incentives of join market. That sort of thing. This is it.
Awesome. The next thing I want to hear about is lightning. You ready?
You guys?
Or Taj is here too.
These guys?
These guys want to say something.
Who wants to say something? You want to?
No.
Okay, you go first and then we'll do lightning after. Alright. Does it work?
Yeah, just
Speak very loud.
pretend it does.
Okay, let's pretend. Well, I did a shitcoin, so...
This is the name of it, shitcoin?
So,
very close.
Shitcoin is less shitty so far.
Okay.
Well, It just started as Datacon when I was so isolated to not know that Datacon existed since 2013, and it was something very shitty like the municipal policy that appeared since well, the inception of the concept. Basically, got deflationary cryptocurrency for data, which means that let's say that you got 1 megabyte of this currency. Let's pretend that it's considered 1 megabyte, and you got the right to write 1 megabyte inside the blockchain. And there is a random memo hash as a power algorithm, which means that I'm trying to use more memory than a CPU to advantage also nodes which don't have the power. Okay, yeah, exactly, to increase the decentralization. And apart from that, well, I'm using regional signatures, and obviously how I'm using it, well, by using ID 25519 instead of well, the other one used that Bitcoin, 2056, K1, which is more secure, or it's more easy to make it safer than the other one. Apart from that, well, it's meant to be more scalable thanks to the fact that it has dynamic fees. Well, someone could also put custom fees if she wants to. And apart from that, there is a dynamic size limit. Dynamic size limit, which means that, well, not so different from how Ethereum try to control the money velocity, if you want to call it. And just that. If you want to know more about it or see some code, oh, shit.
Call me.
Call me.
Next up, we have Taj talking about Lightning.
It's a Lightning squared talk. So yeah, after the meetup this weekend, Scaling Bitcoin, a lot of the Lightning developers were up on the third floor, sort of figuring out, okay, what is the specification? How are we going to get all this software to work together? So we went through a lot of the different things about, messaging, version bits, channel funding, channel states, HDLCs, outsourcing. It's pretty complicated, but we'll make it awesome. There's all sorts of different things to consider, like security, fungibility, privacy, how fast it is, how much throughput it has. Like, you want it so that it doesn't take up much space on your hard drive, despite doing billions of transactions. So we're getting there, and we're sort of getting on a decent 1.0 spec. So hopefully we'll have that pretty soon. You can use it. Cool.
Thank you. So we can maybe do one more, or we can end. What do you guys think?
One more.
One more? One more.
No lightning, no lightning.
Okay. Who hasn't spoken but wants to speak? This is your last chance. You may regret it later if you don't come up. Later you will be like sitting awake in your bed thinking, why didn't I just come up there and talk about what I wanted to talk about? I was shy and I just couldn't, actually get the courage to go up. So the speaker was intimidating. The speaker. I hope I'm not intimidating. Okay, we got one more. Do you have it in you? Yes, I'm looking at you.
Can I have another question?
Sure, one more question. All right, cool. Ricardo.
I heard from Taj all this complicated stuff. Don't you think it could be like really helping, like have a simple version of Lightning to start trying? I don't know.
We'll have we have software that's out now, and you can use it on testnet, and you can try to make it. But you want it to really scale. So the problem with a lot of things, if you cut the corners, it's sort of like with Bitcoin, how Satoshi just said, yeah, we'll do 1 megabyte. And I don't worry about what happens in the future. So with Lightning, we worry about, okay, what happens in the future? What if a million people want to use this? Okay, we have
Are you better than Satoshi?
No, we have more time, right? Like we can see all those things, and so we can take time and
Scale it today.
Yeah, sure.
Make Bitcoin great again.
Cool, so that's the end. Thank you guys all for coming out. I will remind you that we have online communities that you can join if you liked what you saw, if you enjoyed the Blockstack meetup. Go to chat.blockstack.org and actually sign up and check out the other stuff that we have on blockstack.org. We have a Reddit group, we have all this other stuff, YouTube videos. So, and then we have a bunch of other meetup groups that you guys should join. If you haven't already joined the meetup group, make sure you do, right? And thank you again, and we'll keep mingling and hanging out.
Thank you. See you later for, what time is the local expression?
9:30.
9:30 for the winners of all this stuff. See you later.
Wait.
Huh?
Sophia and Alessandro.
Oh, yeah, we have people not selling Bitcoin, but freely giving Bitcoins for opportunities to freely donate Bitcoin in exchange for a free donation of cash money.
Yeah, scam coins.
Fiat scam coins.
Tell who's going.
His guy and Sophia. Where is it? Sophia is donating Bitcoin to everyone so kind to donate here.